Hello student, in this video we will discuss about explicit cursor. Explicit cursors are programmer defined cursor for gaining more control over the context area. An explicit cursor should be defined in the declaration section of the PLSQL block. It is created on a select statement which returns more than one row. The syntax for creating an explicit cursor is cursor name is select statement. Working with an explicit cursor include the following steps: declaring the cursor, opening the cursor, fetch the cursor and close the cursor. Declaring the cursor for initializing the memory, opening the cursor for allocating the memory, fetching the cursor for retrieving the data, and closing the cursor to release the allocated memory. Here the description of declaration section or declaring the cursor. Declaring the cursor define the cursor with a name and the associated select statement. For example, cursor C1 is select ID, name, address from customers. Here cursor C1 is cursor name and is select statement. In select statement we can select the attributes or column name. For example, ID, name, address from customers. Second, opening the cursor. Opening the cursor allocates the memory for the cursor and makes it ready for fetching the rows written by the SQL statement into it. For example, open cursor name, open C1. C1 is cursor name. Then next, fetching the cursor. Fetching the cursor involves accessing one row at a time. For example, we will fetch rows from the above open cursor as follows: fetch cursor name into attributes. Fetch cursor name means C1. Cursor name is C1. Fetch C1 into CID, CNAME, CAddress. Then closing the cursor. Closing the cursor means releasing the allocated memory. For example, close cursor name, close C1. Here the example of explicit cursor: declare CID customer.id person type, CNAME customer.name person type, CAddress customer.address person type. Here person type is a one type of attribute which is used for declaration of cursor or declaration of variables. Cursor C1 is select ID, name, address from customer. Then begin section, open C1 loop, fetch C1 into CID, CNAME, CAddress, exit when C1 person not found. Here C1 is cursor name, exit when cursor is not found means C1 person not found. Then executable statement Rdbms underscore output dot put underscore line CID or operator CNAME or operator CAddress. End loop, close C1, end.